Amazing, amazing. All right, well, for those of you old, those of you new, those of you in between, you're all welcome, we're all part of one family now. But the first part of this, I'm just going to go through a few things about what Extinction Rebellion is and what we do, just so we're all on the same page and we can sort of frame around that. And what I'd like to do is read through the Declaration of Rebellion. Now, I think this was first announced on the 31st of October last year to a few hundred people, 1,000 people in London. Extinction Rebellion has just obviously had a massive impact over the past 2 weeks, and now we're over 50,000 people and growing. We're changing things, and we're going to change it for the better, and we're going to keep doing that. But I think it's important that we bring it back and we understand why we're all here and we put this on the right page. So here we go. Let's start with a quote from John Locke. "To love truth for truth's sake is the principal part of human perfection in the world, and the seed plot of all other virtues." Here is our declaration. We hold the following to be true. This is our darkest hour. Humanity finds itself embroiled in an event unprecedented in its history. One which, unless immediately addressed, will catapult us further into the destruction of all we hold dear, this nation, its peoples, our ecosystems, and the future generations to come. Yeah?
Yeah.
The science is clear. Oh, by the way, actually I'm going to pause. I told you this was going to be 20 minutes. I'm going to give you a mic. Alright, for those who have been to our meetings, if we agree with something, what do we do? Excellent. If you like something, wave your hands in the air like you just like it. If you want clarification, do this. If I'm waffling, do this. That means round up. Alright, very good. If you like what you hear, feel free to wave your hands, okay? This is a community. The science is clear. We are in the 6th mass extinction event, and we will face catastrophe if we do not act swiftly and robustly. Biodiversity is being annihilated around the world. Our seas are poisoned, acidic and rising. Flooding and desertification will render vast tracts of land uninhabitable and lead to mass displacement. Our air is so toxic that the United Kingdom is breaking the law. It harms the unborn whilst causing tens of thousands to die. The breakdown of our climate has begun. There will be more wildfires, unpredictable superstorms, increasing famine, and untold drought as food supplies and fresh water disappear. And that's true even in this country. We have wildfires in Yorkshire. The head of the Environment Agency has said we've got till 2050. The ecological crises that are impacting upon this nation and indeed this planet and its wildlife can no longer be ignored, denied or go unanswered by any beings of sound, rational thought, ethical conscience, moral concern, or spiritual belief. In accordance with these values, the virtues of truth and the weight of scientific evidence, we declare it our duty to act on behalf of the security and well-being of our children, our communities, and the future of the planet itself. We, in alignment with our conscience and our reasoning, declare ourselves in rebellion against our government and the corrupted, inept institutions that threaten our future. The willful complicity displayed by our government has shattered meaningful democracy and cast aside the common interest in favour of short-term gain and private profit. When government and the law fail to provide any assurance of adequate protection, as well as security for its people's well-being and the nation's future, it becomes the right of its citizens to seek redress in order to restore dutiful democracy and to secure the solutions needed to avert catastrophe and protect the future. It becomes not only our right, it becomes our sacred duty to rebel. We hereby declare the bonds of the social contract to be null and void, which the government has rendered invalid by its continuing failure to act appropriately. We call upon every principled and peaceful citizen to rise with us. We demand to be heard, to apply informed solution to these ecological crises, and to create a national assembly by which to initiate those solutions needed to change our present cataclysmic course. We refuse to bequeath a dying planet to future generations by failing to act now. We act in peace, with ferocious love of these lands in our hearts. We act on behalf of life. Extinction!
Rebellion!
Extinction!
Rebellion!
Extinction!
Rebellion!
Amazing, amazing. So that is our declaration. That is why we are here, ladies and gentlemen. We've all, I'm sure, in some shape or form, come across words in our hearts, in our minds, that lead us to this, and I'm in complete agreement of it. A bit about myself. I grew up in Doncaster. I'm 40 years old. I guess in my teen years, slightly unusually for people of Doncaster, I got kind of interested in politics and environment and stuff, and all these things I was learning about development and poverty and Palestine and destruction and desertification and sweatshops was kind of overwhelming. And I went to university and got really involved with it. And to be honest, I was quite disenfranchised at university. I thought it was going to be quite radical. But really, people were just getting by like people are in their lives. And I was kind of like sad. And I joined some groups and did protests and got kettled by the police many times in London. And they used to really enjoy doing that. But I went away and I spent 20 years living abroad. And it was just like, it became kind of overwhelming. The more I was seeing the poverty in different countries, the people just trying to get by, the plastic on the beaches from Chile to Taiwan to Tanzania, it just kind of grew and grew and grew. But I guess all the disparate things I was interested over time kind of coalesced around what we now know today and what we now have. And the reasons I became vegetarian, the reason I became vegan, the reason I did lots of things, all of a sudden 10 years ago it kind of dropped. I was like, okay, there is a center point to all this. There's a way to make it all make sense. And it is about this crisis, because this does change everything, it affects everything. This isn't just about ecological restoration, although it is that. It isn't just about reducing and eliminating greenhouse emissions, although it is that. This is about social development, making a better future, making an equitable planet and place for everyone to prosper as we have done. And let's be honest, we are very, very, very fortunate in this world. We are part of the top billion people who get to live in human history kind of like kings and queens. And we are by no means the wealthiest people that live on this planet, by no means. But we get to drink, eat, fly, go where we want. And unfortunately, other people want to be like that, and that's fine. But unfortunately, that has come at a cost. And I think we are slowly, well, quickly, we have woken up to that idea, and that's where we are now. Governments have known about this for 30 years. Shell knew about it for 40 years, but hid it. Let's have a group for Shell. It's a good time to be slightly toxic. But they've done it 30 years, and really they haven't been quick enough to act. As time goes on, the more I'm reading, the more I'm understanding, came to a point I'm going to get to very, very quickly. The reason I heard about Extinction Rebellion was about October last year. I went on Facebook, saw there was a meeting, attended that, and I was like, wow, okay, all that desperation, all that grief, all that like anxiety, all that like frustration for everything that I've experienced over the years, no matter how I came across it, all of a sudden there were some people who were willing to stand in the street, willing to lie themselves down on bridges and get arrested. And I was like, this felt like something different. As time goes on, we've kind of done different things, and really I decided to join the rebellion. I arrived on the Tuesday. I'm on the tube. I was actually on my way to Parliament Square to join the rest of everybody in there. But the tube stopped by Oxford Circus, and I've heard about the pink boat. So I got off the tube and I went up and was faced with this beautiful scene. A great big pink boat in the middle of Oxford Circus with people singing, dancing, joining in, and it felt different and it felt special. It felt amazing. And here we are today. We are here in hope. We are here in belief for a better future. Can I have some hands for that?
Yay!
Extinction!
Rebellion!
Extinction!
Rebellion!
All right, there we go. That's my little journey, really, and I believe we have something really special and magical going on. I believe we can make a change. Look what's happened the past 2 weeks. Okay, let's have a quick reframe and go back to the reasons why we're here. So we have Extinction Rebellion strategy. So, a core of our philosophy is non-violent civil disobedience. We have people, wonderful people, who are prepared to get arrested, and some people in this room have done. Thank you, you brave, brave rebels. I really appreciate the work you've done. Wonderful, wonderful. Our structure, we organise in small groups. People often ask me like, oh, who's running the show? I'm like, we all kind of do it. So a hierarchical non-government. I don't know what it means. Don't worry. So, but here we are. We are organised. Look how big Extinction Rebellion is. Look how it's growing around the world. So we have principles and values. I think it's worth just taking a second to consider these and make sure we hold these in our heart and hold them to be true. From London, there's been some perhaps little criticisms about how we approach the police, about how they approach us. But actually, what I saw for the first time was a huge protest whereby the police didn't know how to handle it. They didn't really know how to deal with the fact that so many people wanted to get arrested, and they were not antagonising in any shape or form, apart from the fact they glued themselves to a bus, a boat, to each other, the street. They sat there, and that's it. And it was amazing to see. And the level of positive energy from over 1,000 people being arrested and taking over the spaces was just incredible. And that's when you know you've got something special. So, we have a vision of shared change. We know what we want, we know how things are now, we know where we're going with that. We want to create a world fit for ourselves and for our children and for our grandchildren. Our mission is not what's necessary. One of our demands, which I'll come to in a second, people also say, well, it's not possible. We're not bothered about what's possible. That time is done. We know what we need to do. We know what the science tells us. We need to do it. It needs to happen. It can happen. We can make it happen. The fact that it's not possible, it's not economically viable, to be frank, when I use the word once, is bullshit. Alright, we need a regenerative culture. The idea of growth is gone. We can't have growth on a finite planet. We need a way to be sustainable and to make things last and make things be fit for purpose for the future generations. By not doing that, we are stealing from them. People often talk about the disruption that we cause, like what about people getting to work? Like, well, what about the very generations that you're stealing resources from that they cannot have because we've taken it? And that's slightly abstract, but that is the fundamental truth of our system. We openly challenge ourselves and this toxic system. So we are open to criticism. We know we live in a toxic system. I don't know if anyone watched Question Time last night.
Yes.
We have 30 minutes where they didn't talk about Brexit. It was amazing. Everyone was in the audience and they were just saying like, I watched David Attenborough, they were standing up and like, nearly everyone apart from that weird dude from Lord of the Rings, George again, but was really into it and trying their hardest to be sort of extolling these virtues. That is a sea change. Unfortunately, after that, he went back to Brexit and they went to shouting at each other and all that. But we know we live in a toxic system, and as our method of disruption in London showed, we can get arrested en masse, we can cause huge disruption and have the police on our side. That's amazing. We value reflecting and learning. We don't have the answers, we're not proposing the solutions for the future. We have a few principles, and a few values and a few demands. We have each other, we have our skills, but we know we're adaptive species, we know we're learning species, and we learn from each other. And every meeting I go to, every action I do, I learn from each and every one of you, and I think it's a really wonderful thing, and it cannot be celebrated enough. I just met that guy today. I welcome you too, Dutch brother. He's been amazing. Shout out to this guy here. I can't remember your name. Very good. And we welcome everyone. So welcome all the new people. Very good. No matter who you are, where you're from, what you voted, what you don't vote, what you believe, does not matter. You have a place here with us. We actively mitigate for power. We understand there are power dynamics and power inequities in our society, in our culture, in our communities, and we are working hard to make sure we mitigate for them. We avoid blaming and shaming. Very easy to do, particularly when we get online and we start twitching away, but this is a really wonderful, powerful thing where we're here to be inclusive, to find different ways to get past the fact that we think differently. We are, of course, a non-violent network, which I think is a really, really powerful aspect of what we do. And lastly, we are based on autonomy and decentralization. So there are coordinators, and I give a shout out to all the wonderful coordinators, particularly being all the people who shouted out tonight and have organized this, amazing, amazing. But ultimately, we're all part of it. Whether you're sat at home sharing stuff, you're on the street, you're being arrested, you're not, it does not matter. You're all part of one wonderful thing. We're all part of one unified whole, and that's amazing and beautiful. All right. Our demands. What's our first demand?
Tell the truth.
Tell the truth.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
I'm quite deaf, I can't hear you.
Tell the truth.
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 For too long, science has been saying what's been going on. I spent 5 years researching it, and this has been put in reports since the first Rio Summit in 1992. They know it's been going down, but it has not been filtering through to the public consciousness. Now it's time for the governments, for the media to step up and tell people how bad it really is, because unfortunately, it's really damn bad. but we're in a position, we have a window, this is an important window to make that change. We need everyone to play their part. Check denial, check people who are spreading misinformation, and work hard to make sure that people tell the truth. Oh yeah, I did that. Alright, next demand. It's a biggie. Woo. People often say that. I was talking to a lot of people in London, like, so yeah, go on, how are you going to do that? Like, hey, we're here to be part of that change. We're not saying it's impossible, we are saying it's necessary. This is challenging, it needs to be done. The science tells us we need zero carbon tire by 2025. That has to happen. That's for the good of us and for everyone who comes after us. Lastly, and this is a really important part of it, we're here to change systems. This isn't just ecological change and restorations, it's social, political, economic change, and it's important that we have a place. There's a social democracy in this. We can see democracy is not really fit for purpose at the moment, as the dreaded B word has revealed. We are here to act as citizens' assembly. This has been used very fantastically in lots of different countries, including Ireland. It's a really, really wonderful, powerful thing. A select number of people come together, they're presented with academics, with experts, and they together work towards a consensus for proposed solutions. We need a voice in what the solutions are going to be. We don't know how life is going to be. We don't know how things are going to be in 2050 if we make these changes. We can't plan for that. We want a say in it. And the current state of politics does not allow us to do that. So you can't quite see it. This says Extinction Rebellion Sheffield. Big up for yourselves. My, how we've grown. My, how we've developed. So we've gone from being in the council session where they did announce they were going to go zero carbon by 2050, but as we know, that's not good enough and not strong enough. We've had a funeral march, you know. And we have had... All right. Funny enough, actually, I mean, when was it we did the BBC demonstration? Who was at this? Was that November, December?
Yeah.
In the winter.
Yeah. December.
Well,
yeah.
3-4 months later, we are actually on the radio. Like, we've gone from banging drums and boxes outside the station, but to actually being on the air. We've swarmed, and that really got us onto consciousness. We've done Paint the Streets, done lots and lots of actions, and we were very, very present. People in Sheffield know about us, and that's why a lot of people are here today. Of course, some people went to London as well, and 7 wonderful people also got arrested, so we're going to shout out for those people who sacrificed their freedom for it as well. Thank you. Slightly, because I think the quotes that you guys gave are really wonderful. Eve, if you're in the house, big shout out to Eve. Zoology student, she joined Extinction Rebellion because the natural world and everyone I love is threatened by climate change. I believe that I have a responsibility to use my privilege to do everything in my power to fight it. Louis, lovely. Louis, absolutely fantastic. I really love what you said here, man. Since my arrest, I've now been referred to as a climate activist, but I'm not so sure I agree. A woman who jumps into a pool to save a drowning child doesn't suddenly become a lifeguard. People react in ways proportionate to situations they understand themselves to be in. We just do what needs to be done. Now that I've actually read the science myself, I feel like I've just seen a child fall into the pool. Except that child is all life on Earth as we know it, and now no reaction seems inappropriate. I'd do anything to save that child. I think that's really beautiful. Well done, Matt, putting that together. It's really beautiful. Right. So you might have noticed over the past 2 weeks, we've been making some headlines. We made a bit of a change. Go on. Yeah. Hands in the air. All right. Hands up, people who managed to make it down to London. Excellent. Hands up, anyone who wanted to be in London. Of course. I managed to make it down myself. It was just a really, really beautiful experience. I spoke a bit about it already. I won't say too much more. But for 7 days, we occupied 4 principal places in the heart of London, and the police just did not know how to react to that because of how peaceful we were, how disruptive we were, how organised we were. Without having a hierarchy, anyone really leading us, we were able to be so strong in what we did. There is belief here, and there is passion, and there's a knowledge and understanding, and a togetherness to know that we're making a difference, and we'll continue, and we won't stop until we get what we need and what everyone needs and what everyone wants. There's one picture, I was looking through a lot to make the slideshow together, but I think there's 2 that really kind of stood out. Also got a generational thing here, this little tyke. You are never too small to make a difference. That's a quote from the wonderful Greta. Don't we love Greta? And this lovely lady actually spoke to her as well. We have to be here, it's for all life on Earth. I mean, nothing more sums it up than that. You've been watching the news, there's a reason why you're here today, so we won't talk too much more about London. We are now going to phase 2. I think it's really appropriate that we had a bit of a pause in action to let people take stock. I think we have forced the issue onto the agenda. We'll see what happens next. Together, we'll organise it, together we'll work together, and together we're not going to stop until we get what we need, and that is a better future. One final thing from me. Maybe relieved to know. And go back to the music. By the way, let's have a shout out for the music. Shout out for Alistair, the first act. This name right here. Bongo Bliss the second. Can't get changing the names on. Sorry, we've got 2 more acts. Who's on next? Very good. Shout out for those guys. And then after that is. Someone else. Shout out for them as well. Anyway, we really appreciate you guys taking the effort and time to come down here and support what we do. This is a fundraiser for our small, well, growing group. Oh, hello.
Would you like to tell everyone when we are meeting and where?
I would love to do that. Tell me.
So every Tuesday, every Monday at 6 o'clock at Union Street Cafe.
Love what you just said. Very good. What time is when is the meeting? What day?
Monday.
When?
6.
Amazing. Everyone is welcome, old, new, and in between. Very good. It's a wonderful thing. If you come at 6 o'clock, you can pay a small donation and have some lovely, lovely food, which is always amazing whenever I have it. And then you get to hang out with people like you lot, and that's really cool too. All right, very good. And last thing, I really like poetry. I want to end on something poignant. And I'd like to say that I wrote this, but I didn't. Someone with talent and skill wrote it. And I read it today, and I really love it. It's by a kind of a newer poet called Nick Drake. He's also aware that he has the same name as a quite famous singer-songwriter. I actually wrote a poem about it, which is actually really good too. Anyway, this is called The Future Says. The future says, "Dear mortals, I know you are busy with your colourful lives. I have no wish to waste the little time that remains on arguments and heated debates. But before I can appear, please close your eyes, sit still, and listen carefully to what I'm about to say. I haven't happened yet, but I will. I can't pretend it's going to be business as usual. Things are going to change. I'm going to be unrecognizable. Please, don't open your eyes, not yet. I'm not trying to frighten you. All I can ask is that you think of me not as a wish or a nightmare, but as a story you have to tell yourselves. Not with an ending in which everyone lives happily ever after, or a B-movie apocalypse, but maybe starting with the line, to be continued. And see what happens next. Remember this, I am not written in stone, but in time. So please don't shrug and say, what can we do? It's too late, etc., etc., etc. Dear mortals, you are such strange creatures with your greed and your kindness and your hearts like little broken toys. You carry fear with you everywhere like a tiny god in its box of shadows. You love festivals and music and good food, but you lie to yourselves because you're afraid of the dark. But the truth is, you are in my hands and I am in yours. We are in this together, face to face and eye to eye. We are made for each other. Now, those of you who are still here, open your eyes and tell me what you see. All right, that's Nick Drake. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your ears. Can you give yourself a big round of applause again? Thank you very much. Amazing. All right, well, a collective sigh of relief, you can be aware that this is the end of me talking. So thank you very much for your patience. Thank you for your ears. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Big shout out for all those who've organised tonight. Now, in a few minutes, we'll be shutting this down, but the next act coming up, we're going to party to the early hours. Is there still sometimes, but we don't know. Is there still food going? No, no more food. So we didn't get food. Sorry, it was tasty. Very good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you may arise. Thank you much for your ears. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, time to yourselves. Thank you.